the true member is part of the debate on how we should go after the so-called changing of government, where the main narrative of that is like we overcome our racial tensions, we work for the opposition party for the first time, and we are winning for the first time, so that our so-called common sinful past being erased. But from my point of view, no, we never really opened the so-called Pandora boxes. We need to open it, whether it's ugly or worse, but at least there are truth in there. We need to face it. My personal 2 cents. Thank you.
All right, let's comment. Rindani, you want to share the comment?
So it's also not a question, but it's just a comment on like I find the colonial strategy that was applied in Malaysia to be the very same strategy that was applied in my country, South Africa. Well, the first one is divide and conquer. It seems to be like quite a common strategy. Divide the people, and secondly, you establish like a local ruling elite to act as agents, so like the comprador bourgeoisie. And then third, you also okay. So what happens is that like in the post-colonial era, or in the post-independent era, that which was done in the past has a way of like manifesting itself. You know? So I find that like very similar. I find those similarities between your country and my country.
Yeah, in fact, because in Malaysia, the very first who bring out the ideas of Malay as a race is British. It's the British official who say, oh, before they bring out the idea, Malay, they don't say I'm Malay. They will say I'm from Sulawesi, I'm from Java, I'm from different part of Indonesia. And then the British, they start to say, probably you can form a group like Malay. It's research-based. You can find on the official documents, British try to implant this idea, you should have a united race and a Malay, because they are fighting territory with the Dutch in Indonesia. That's why they try to do this. Yeah. But it's for what I say just now, it's not like all people know about this. If I am a Malay filmmaker, if I say this, probably I can get away with it. But if I'm a Chinese filmmaker, they will say I'm trying to promote the Malay supremacy. Yeah.
The Dutch regime also do the same thing. Right? They established the Citizenship Act in the 50s. It's the same as the British. You haven't finished your question.
Yeah, so like in my country, so they couldn't divide us according to race because we're like all African. So like the strategy then was to divide us according to ethnicity, like or tribes, you know, like Zulus, Benis, and whatever. And so they also implanted like the idea of like, you know, separation.
Yeah, simplify it so that they can move.
Yeah.
Elizabeth and then Radha. Okay, Elizabeth.
I'll go after everyone.
Okay. Huh?
Let them finish.
No. We just take turns. You have.
Did you or the interviewers got in trouble because of this documentary?
What do you mean? During the filming?
During and afterward. Now
Not really. My name is already in the list of the special agents. So as long as I keep it low profile, you know. Yeah, I just go for they know where I'm going to screen the films, like okay, if you screen the film in Kuala Lumpur, like most urban area, people are more liberal and open-minded, it's okay. But then if I go to Malay community to screen the films, then it will create trouble. Yeah, because they kind of like, they say they want to protect the Malay. Like if for example, like my previous film, Absent Without Me, if I go into like really Malay populated community, if I screen those films, it will be like a blow of their mind, like, oh, this is totally different from what they believe, then it will cause trouble. Yeah, we want to do that. We still trying to find way to do that. Yeah, especially that's why I want to reach the Malay population, and I want to speak to them. I want to hear from them as well, which is my next documentary is about, to reach the Malay. Yeah.
And another question. I was a little bit confused about the end.
Mhm.
So.
You mean the Orang Asli?
Yeah, so the 4 children sleeping in or laying on the ground, and then there's no picture anymore, and you hear the sound. So, what did you think about?
It's like because I don't want it to be a close ending. The trees are still falling nowadays in Malaysia, and trees have a double meanings. Also, of those witnesses of the methodology, they are aging, they are dying, and they still cannot talk about their memories and speak about their families who passed away in the incidents. So I'm trying to sending a message, a warning. Trees are dying. But probably we should do something. Yeah.
Latin? I mean, more hands, but Latin.
Now, I want to thank you for your documentary, which is really very powerful, and also it allows us to think of other places where similar things happen. I want to comment on the fact that the expression Bhumiputra itself is ridiculous to take it as they want it to signify a basic Malaysian policy thing, because it's a Sanskrit word, it's an Indian word. I mean, itself, Bhumi meaning earth, soil, and Putra, sun. But it shows also how these concepts then that we use, we have different terms and concepts from different languages, race, ethnicity, nation, caste, even class, even languages are, come in this category. They actually all serve the same purpose of categorizing people and not allowing passages, transmission from one identity to the other. Identity itself, the term identity itself is like that. Right? They want to restrict you to one identity, whereas you should be free to belong to several, to multiple identities. I was wondering about, in India, to come back to India, they have this concept which is actually not Indian but Western, of caste, right? And it is not very clear what is caste, what is class, or what is caste and what is race. Caste is I would say there is a double meaning, because caste is a Western normative concept for India, and for India only. They have castes, and the castes have been determined by the Britishers, right? Because the Britishers wrote them down, and before the Britishers wrote them down, it was possible to some extent to negotiate caste. After the first census, it was not possible to negotiate the caste anymore. So it becomes like race, right? And race itself is of that kind. Now, my question is whether there is in your Orang Asli community, or in the way they present themselves, some idealization of their foremost or prior community before colonization, before they were ill-treated by the others, so that they maybe see themselves as a classless, raceless community, brotherly, where everyone is equal. Is there something of that in
Yeah, because in the films, the ending, I end with their mythology. They were saying, they are the elders. You see, Orang Asli, in the Orang Asli believing, they say they are the earliest people in this country. because they are the first who arrived, and then later on the Malay, and then the Chinese and Indian. So they perceive themselves as the eldest among the family. So sometimes they will say to me like, oh, so the younger brother and sister, like Malay, Chinese, they always fight for the something. But we as the elders, we should forgive them. This is what they tell me, and this is why I end with their mythology.
Not
Yeah.
a bad attitude.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, but we
Yes.
don't really know, is it they just try to convince themselves like to be the marginalized community. But one of the sad things, yeah, but one of the things that make me sad is like in the films, when the Orang Asli village head, he brought me over, they wear in the really traditional costume. They don't wear it normally.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah, normally
Not
they
not
wear
anymore.
t-shirt, shorts,
Not anymore.
normal wearing like us. But when I say, oh, I'm going to film about this logging problem, they start to objectify themselves. They will change, or they say they will change. I didn't ask them, they just change into the traditional costume, everything, and say, because it's like they already know this is kind of a perform. If they want to fight against the logging, they have to perform in certain way, like we are preserving the traditional living, traditional culture, so that they can gain attention from the social. Yeah, which is another side, like I would like to bring up as well. Yeah. Actually,
I'm curious about something. Are you familiar with the notion of passing? Passing? No, so maybe I have to explain that because it's related to our discussion. It has become something important in the US. Passing, that is, let's take an example. You're an African American, but it happens that you have a very light skin. Yeah, almost white. So you have the capacity to pass for a white person, okay? And of course, many strategies in social life can be involved in that. You pass for, or you pass from something to something else, okay? But the interesting thing in that notion is that it's, you can understand it as being able to pass as something else, something different from what you are supposed to be by birth or from your origin in racial terms. That is, being able to cross a racial line, very important, or any kind of identity. Somebody said, you are this. Maybe I can pass to something else. And it can become a political operation which is very interesting, very attractive for many reasons. You are this, and you say, no, I'm not this. You see what I mean?
This and that.
Yeah, I'm different. I'm different. I'm not.
Philip Roth, the
Yes.
thing.
So, or what is another example? How is it called? The musician, white Zulu, who passed away recently.
Or Johnny Clegg?
Yes, exactly. So you're white South African. No, I'm a Zulu musician. I'm something completely different. So what I wanted to ask you is there a space in your society for such operation, and where, okay, you can empower that move, or passing, saying, I'm saying, oh, so you are Chinese.
yeah.
No, I'm not exactly that. And passing to something else. Is it completely closed?
ambiguous
So that
because-
nobody can do that.
It's ambiguous because passing also means dying.
No.
So, yes, so you die for one category and you pass on to another.
Yes, if
You
you
and
want.
I.
Yes, if you want, yes.
It has been a very debatable issue in my country, but the most, it's not about race because Malay are born to be Muslim. You do not choose to be Muslim. Straight away you're born, you have to be Muslim, and you grow up to be Muslim. And if you are Muslim, then you want to convert to Christian, it's not allowed by the Islamic law.
You can convert to Islam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you are not Islam, you can convert to Muslim. You can. In Malaysia, yes.
Yeah.
But if you are Muslim, you cannot convert to non-Muslim. Yeah. Yeah, because it was like besides we have a civil law, we have an Islamic law. And that Islamic law court actually manage all the Muslim incidents or whatever. So it makes to this, like what you say, the passing between Muslim and non-Muslim is very difficult, especially for if you are in the Muslim community. If you want to come out from the Muslim community, like for example, if you marry a Chinese, if you are married someone who is not Muslim, then otherwise, if your husband or the other side want to convert Muslim, then the marriage is possible. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's really close. There are ways to get away from it, but you need to be low profile, not to be noticed by the. We have a religion police. We still have a religion police in Malaysia. People who like supervise if you by the Muslim law, the Muslim livelihood or not, they can still prison you for that. So I would say it's not really close, the situation, but there are ways they can get around with it. Yeah. But it's not like really openly, everyone can do that. Yeah.
Question here. Yeah. It's not a question, but it's a reflection. I was thinking when every time we talk about May 13th, is it possible, like, rather than races, we have different perspective? Like, we also have research to do with, there are some research talking about May 13th actually is because of the UMNO party. Actually, they have inner conflict.
Yeah.
So it is a elite organized, it's a planned thing. So using race as a packaging, so it kind of easy to apply. And so I was thinking how, if we want to discuss about May 13th, or we want as a younger generation, I was always thinking how we can like really come up to see the power behind rather than just see the surface. How we can really go through the incidents together, not because of Chinese. When we say that we are Malaysian, I was thinking how we want to prove as a Malaysian, how we come together.
Maybe I add to her question. That is, I do know there are young generations. They work together, for example, Zikri, and Inxin, Chinese Malay, and also Indian, Chimu Malay. They want to work together, either in a bookstore or as artists or publishers, try to try to overcome this racial differentiation. So are there still active movement like this? Okay, or is it more difficult currently after Mahathir still reinforced a concept of Malay, right? Recently, as ever. Before the election, he said he wanted to erase his differences, but now they're still reinforcing the statement that Malay supremacy, right? That's very disappointing. But I do want to see younger generation people. I know that they don't prefer to be addressed as Chinese ethnicity, but they want to be addressed as Malaysian, right? So I think that's important. But this is possible or still going on.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Like we shouldn't like just define it as a, like I said just now, because at the time when it happened, people at that time they don't perceive it as a racial riot. They see it just as a riot. Yeah, that's why in the film actually I never say it's a racial riot. I said it's a riot between certain ethnics. And I'm trying, in the films, I always trying to blurring the racial line. Like the Mr. Tay in the beginning when he paid visit to the cemetery, we all thought like, oh, this is a Chinese victims. And he's so suffering, his misery, everything. But then in the end, he's saying his grandmother is a Malay. How can he hate Malay? Yeah, I was thinking this is important. We should always try to blurring this racial line when we try to look back to the May 13th. And also, since young, I always believe I always thought this is an incident where Malay killing Chinese. But then in the film also you see Chinese gangsters also kill whoever they hate, even Chinese. Yeah, this is not like I choose Malay to kill. It's like they make use of this riot. They kill whoever that opposite them. Yeah, which is I'm trying to complicate the situation. It's not like just a race killing another race. Yeah, in fact, I did meet some people who was involved in the killings. I mean, someone who was I met one of the uncle. He was outside the Federal Cinema. He was a fruit hawker seller. And at that time, when he was doing business over there, then the Chinese mob come over and then ask him to join. There's not much choice for him. You see, he don't speak Malay. What he can believe is only Chinese community. And then he did pick up the knife and go inside, and he did kill. From his eye, I can tell he killed someone. But then I didn't put in the films. I didn't interview him. Because then I have to ask, if I really put him in the films, will he be justly treated? Because the image can be used as an evidence. Can he be justly on trial because he's Chinese? He's not Malay. And this is the question that I have to ask. Yeah. And I'm still trying also to approach ex-soldiers who were there also witness. So this is I'm not going to just stop here. So I will carry on to make more interview regarding the thing. Yeah.
Yes, please. Dora.
No, this funny issue about who was here before and who came later, who is the original people and who are the immigrants, reminded me of an Italian novelist, Tito Calvino, who wrote a very nice science fiction short story called, what's this called? Well, the book is about Fanta Politica, fantastic politics. And it's about people living before the Big Bang. Migration since, so it's not only about history and geography, it's also about astrophysics. Before the Big Bang, everything was supposed to be contained in a single dot. No space, no surface, no line, no volume. Just a dot, and no time, of course. And of course, the density of the population in a single dot was very high because they were very crowded. And people were very annoyed by a family whom they saw as a family of immigrants and who always tried to tend a rope to dry laundry in a dot. It's a bit difficult, no? So this single family annoyed everybody. But then everybody also realized that there was something wrong with that story. Because how can they be immigrants if there was no time? So since when they are here if there is no time? And where could they come from if there is no space? So the whole issue becomes absurd. And if you take the planet as a dot, it's equally absurd.
Or the Malay, you got a question? Yeah, or actually, Malaysia or Indonesia, they are islands and islands. Nusantara means islands and the other islands. Right. So all these islands, they have their Aboriginal peoples of different tongues, different languages. They have people travel, communicated, and settled. The Indian, the Chinese, the Japanese, and of course different parts of it, just like Taiwan, right? So how do people get together and to form the community and the society? It should be up to all people, and maybe redefining so-called Malay is important. Malay people, Malaysian people, just like redefining Taiwanese people is important. Okay, otherwise, new settler, late settler, then they would fight all the time, right? I came here 50 years earlier than you are, or 100 or 20, 200 or 400 years before you. We threw away all this Aboriginal people into the mountain. We now rule, right? So that's still doing it.
Actually, back to that, I can share that after the Freedom Film Fest screening, I have another screening, a private screening, which is in Chinese Assembly Hall. It's a Chinese secondary school, and it was sponsored by the Chinese community leaders. And in that screening, majority are all Chinese, only 2 Malays. And then they expect to see just a made-in Chinese victim put kind of documentary. So they kind of confused. In the beginning, there's Orang Asli coming out, and then they talk about Orang Asli. So after the screening, there's a QA again. Then they ask, why do you put Orang Asli and the made-in together again? So I actually asked the question back. Like I'm saying, if I make a documentary, if I make 2 documentaries, one is Orang Asli, if I screen it on Monday. Another one is about made-in, we Chinese as a victims. Another documentary I screen on Tuesday. Would all of you come for 2 documentaries? Would these 2 documentaries will be sponsored by the Chinese community leaders and let me to screen it in the Chinese secondary school? No one really answered my questions. We have to question this as well. The Chinese close-minded and superiority. We just care for the Chinese issue. If the issue that is not related to our race, then we just say, oh, this is not our business. We only care only of ourselves, Chinese issue, this is selfish as well. Yeah.
I think
sorry. What you just said actually kind of relates to something that I thought about during the film and now, which is when you talk about kind of bringing together these perspectives in the film. I'm curious about how the people you interviewed relate to your project in itself. So I'm curious about things like how, even just how you decided who to interview or how you found people to interview, how they felt about talking about such sensitive and potentially dangerous things to talk about, how they feel, maybe how they feel now about what the film is for them, but also what, with these different perspectives, what the different motivations were for coming to this project.
Yeah. Now, for the Orang Asli part, it's easy because they really want to be known. They want the whole issue of illegal logging, so they will come forward to me. So, but the major thing is really difficult, especially if the interviewer is a different races with me. If they are Malay or Indian, they will be more cautious. Yeah.
So, like the Orang Asli people that you interviewed, do you have much of a sense of how they relate to the Made-in side of the film?
Oh, you mean the Made-in? They just roughly know about Made-in because it doesn't really affect them. Made-in is only happening in just Kuala Lumpur, which is the capital. It doesn't really affect all Malaysians.
Right, which is kind of why I'm curious about maybe in that case after they see the film, how they feel about what their perspective is on their place in this.
Yeah, I think it's the first time you give them an idea how they can relate to major things. In the past, they don't see this is nothing related to them. But then, since the documentary, then they will say, instead of just saying, "Oh, we should solve our community problem," we should see it as it's an idea of race. The root of the problem is race. Yeah. But one of the things that made me start to make this film is one of my Orang Asli friends asked me, he asked me why Malay hate them so much. You know, when I was in Orang Asli village, and then he asked me, can you tell me why Malay hate us so much? And actually they look quite the same. From the appearance, you can't tell. But then they ask me, do you because he say I'm educated, I'm graduate, I'm a filmmaker. I say, can you tell me why they hate us so much? From the